Thank you so much. Thank you once again for joining us on our weekly health talk. Again, my name is Kerry-Ann Joseph-McLean. My co-host, Cornell-McLean, and I are not only life partners as husband and wife, but we are health enthusiasts. We are consider ourselves healthier lifestyle entrepreneurs. We are business partners and best friends. And so as we walk this path together, as we know that we're not health practitioners, but we're health enthusiasts, we want to be able to pour into you the knowledge that we have acquired over the last 14, 15 years or so in just learning, understanding about being proactive with our health. And it has expanded to this health talk, which we do every single Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And as we evolve and we grow this community of like-minded individuals who want to be healthier, wealthier in health, and to be proactive, because as a friend of ours has stated, that we are the doctors of the future. We can't prescribe our medication, but we can be aware of what we put in, how we sleep, how we move, how we think. And according to one of my mentors, Dr. Bob Bukowski, even how we poop as well. So there's seven, magnificent seven is what he always speaks on. And as I share this with you, the information I've gained just for today alone has actually opened my eyes even further. So today's topic is on gout. I was actually going to share my slide with you. Just give me just a moment to do that. All right. And then if you can see my screen as I share, could you put a 2 in the chat as I share the screen? Okay, I'm sharing that now. Let me know if you can see my screen. Please put a 2, and then I'll be able to proceed just as we go through this topic. I've learned a plethora of things. I was creating my word here, but um, from what we eat to how we move, how we sleep, everything is impacted. Everything is connected. So today's topic is about gout and the symptoms and causes and how things are you don't really realize the connection that they're connected between your hearing loss to your kidneys, your cardiovascular condition, through diabetes, and so many other things. And what we eat is who we become. What manifests in our body, internally and externally, is evident as to what the condition of our body is, whether it is actually slowly improving in health or declining in health. And sometimes it's the small things over time that can actually impact our health until we are 20 to 30 years later down and it actually manifests into something more serious. So as we speak on health, the possible link between different things, I will touch on different areas that are somewhat related to gout, and some other things that that are still under different studies as to the information I've gathered in different credible sites. I take information from Yale, Mayo Clinic. I take it from Harvard uh, documentation, through PubMed studies, to the National Health Library. And I take all this information and I compile them together as a presentation so you can see as to the best of my knowledge what I'm able to gather. The hope is that information enlightens you. And of course, you can take screen captures, ask questions, and so forth. So common joint problems, we know things like arthritis and tendonitis, bone cancer, but one of them is actually gout. We don't really realize that gout is actually linked to joint problems. And so we may think, okay, I have a knee issue. It could be very small and minute until it actually manifests into something else. So until you actually have a medical practitioner give you a proper diagnosis, this information that I share with you could be something that you may be experiencing or someone you know in your family, friends, or your inner circle. So what does gout feel like? Well, it actually attacks you in many ways. It can be very painful, joint inflammation. The pain is often described as a burning pain. Early gout attack usually affects, only one area, one joint at a time. And basically, as we look through different symptoms, it can have anything from swollen to warm to redness in the way of in the joint, up to 12 hours can have that impact on you. Most of the time, the attack occurs at night and lasts at least 3 to 10 days. And individuals indicate that the pain actually can increase. It's so bad that they can't stand to the slightest touch. So even the weight of for example, your bed sheet can cause excruciating pain. So the sensitivity, your nerve endings, all of that's impacted as well. Walking, standing, all of these things can happen, but the most severe could be flu-like symptoms, including fever and chills. And so the pain may go away, but in some cases, it may last longer, even weeks, depending, of course, a combination of different things, how you're eating, how you're sleeping, how you're handling your stress, and I'm going to explain in a little bit. Some of the symptoms and causes are impacted because your body's impacted with the symptoms and causes because of the uric acid. So the uric acid is a natural compound your body makes when it breaks down purines from food. And the purines are natural substances found in food, and your body uses it to build your DNA. So what happens when it's out of balance? I'll share that with you in a little bit. So your kidneys usually filter out excess uric acid. But sometimes eating foods high in purines like organ meat, liver, kidneys, dried beans, even anchovies can cause uric acid levels to build up and cause more problems. So joint pain, if you know different areas can happen. With gout, there you actually have your areas of the body where two bones, of course, we know that we meet. And so the knee joint or the elbow joint, usually where you have a gout flare up, you can feel it more intense. You would think it's the foot, but actually mostly it's from the elbow or the knees. So the pain in your joint usually happens when suddenly and without any warning. It is common for gout attacks to happen during the night, of course, while you're sleeping because your body's more relaxed or perceived to be relaxed. And the pain in your joints can be severe enough to wake you up during the night. So the intense joint pain often stays, as I mentioned before, a few hours before even subsiding. Sometimes you take medication to sort of dampen the pain, but it still stays there, not totally going away. So other symptoms would be redness and inflammation. So during the gout attack, the skin over the joint may look visibly red or even feel hot inside, and the joint may feel warm to the touch. So the uric acid crystals can form in the synovial fluid, so the fluid in your joints that cushions the bone. And this irritates and inflames the area. So your immune system sends the white blood cells. So of course, this is why it's so important to keep your immune system either supported so it's not overactive or underactive, right? So it gets mentioned before everything is connected. So the immune system sends the white blood cells to the area to help with the problem, but it causes pain, redness, and inflammation. So it's working against your body, so to speak. So the lingering pain happens where the intense pain will subside after a gout attack, but you might find you have the feelings of lingering discomfort or mild pain in one of the more joints that you're experiencing the inflammation of the gout attack. So this is much less painful than the intense pain you experience during a gout attack, but it can be quite uncomfortable. So often joint discomfort can linger, not only days, but also weeks after you've had the gout attack. So imagine if you're having multiple flare-ups, then it's ongoing discomfort that you're having because your body is not balanced in a way because you're having more severe gout flare-ups. You may also find you have a limited range of motion. You may say, okay, as you get older, you feel a bit more stiff, joint pains because you're either doing something or not sleeping right. It could be related to gout. So if the gout progresses and you experience more and more episodes, you can feel a limit on the range of motion in your joints, as I mentioned, your elbow, your knees, and so forth. So gout can cause damage to the joints over time if it's not treated, resulting in these limitations. Of course, there's a balance to this order because if you're taking medication to alleviate the symptoms of your gout, it may cause further damage because your body may not be able to process all of this uh, unnatural medication, because these are called pharmaceuticals, of course. Now, there's no wrong or right way. You have to do whatever is best for you in the way of treatment, but also just to be mindful of what the consequences are, whether it's going to be good or not so good. So many people who experience gout in the small joints, like your fingers or your toes, also experience a decreased range of motion. It can also be mindful as well. It's slightly different. Some people actually experience osteoarthritis in the toes, where this more rigidity is not as flexible. That's different than actual gout, so just be mindful of that as well. So how does gout affect the whole body? Well, it's known that gout affects the big toe. That's where it usually starts, or actually one of the areas it starts. But did you know gout can affect other parts of the body? For example, your eyes or your mental health. Just like any health condition you have or health scare, your mental health, you must pay attention to that as well, because not only about gout, but many other conditions, we know that there's a history of studies done between mental health, depression, anxiety with anything that or any situation or any illness that impacts the body overall. So the uric crystal deposits can end up in your eye. The number of gout patients who also have a dry eye disease, this actually has increased because they have developed gout. Mental health, people living with gout are more likely, of course, to develop anxiety and depression, as I mentioned, with any other um, imbalance in the body in the way of illness. So kidneys can have complication. As I mentioned, the uric acid actually is what your kidney filters this out, and then excess is actually removed from the body because the kidney is supposed to be functioning as it should to get that out of your system. But the kidneys are responsible, of course, for filtering excess uric acid from your body through your urine. If you're diabetic, that's another symptom that's going to, or condition that actually compounds what you're going through. So imagine having gout and diabetic, and then you have a double whammy, so to speak. So there's actually direct correlation between the gout and kidney disease. So you're not only experiencing externally the redness and the the discomfort internally with pain or with the range of motion, but you're also fighting with kidney disease if it actually gets progressively worse. So in more severe cases of gout, where the crystals are formed, it accumulates in the kidneys, which leads to kidney stone, which is very painful. You have to pass it through, and for men even more so because it passes through their sex organ, and whereas women can pass through, through their sex organ, but not as pain. It's painful, but not as painful as when men go through this when they're passing kidney stones. So sometimes a stone can become large enough that it blocks the urethra, and so that actually the tube that moves urine from the kidney to your blood is what is impacted as well. So the link also is has been a study has been done. There may be a link between gout and hearing loss. So the study means so basically the implications is that um, is gout causing hearing loss? Not necessarily, but there are other underlying conditions. So it doesn't seem to be quite so simple when we look at the direct link between the hearing loss and gout. But what there is there could be a possible relation. So rather than direct connection between them, the research being done to speculate whether the connection can be caused through oxidative stress and inflammation. If the body is high in oxidative stress, which will explain what that is in a little bit, and inflammation, that can impact your hearing loss. If you're having gout, that means your oxidative stress and inflammation is really high. That means your body's out of balance, causing further complications, including hearing loss. So the link between these two, as I mentioned, could be oxidative stress. If you have not been tested for oxidative stress, this is something that you could actually inquire with your doctor about. So oxidative stress has been thought to cause both inflammation of the joints and damage to the stereocilia, which is the inner ear in the case of hearing loss. The study that I mentioned before, we were not able to measure the level of oxidative stress through laboratory results, but the researchers speculate that it's most likely connected between the two conditions. So both conditions could lead to hearing loss. So it's highly recommended to seek your doctor, check for hearing loss, check your hearing, ask your doctor to refer you to a specialist so you can actually have it tested every few years. And if you're looking at the connection, it can cause further damage to permanent hair loss, but at least you can know that you with the test for oxidative stress and also testing your inner ear can actually help you to be more proactive with the things you need to do to protect yourself against these possible issues. So oxidative stress, what is that? It is an imbalance between free radicals, meaning reactive oxidant species, and antioxidants. That means you're fighting with each other. And so the antioxidants and the free radicals, as they fight with each other in the body, it can lead to the breakdown of the cells and tissue, so damaging that either permanently or it can be reversed depending on how you take care of yourself with the things I'm going to share with you that could possibly help. So it can cause by factors like poor diet, smoking, environmental toxins, and it's linked to aging and disease such as cancer, heart disease, and diabetes. Again, everything is an underlying factor. We speak about different things like inflammation. We say that word so carefree, but actually it is a serious thing when the body is highly inflamed. That it can impact not just one area of your body, but multiple organs, your cells, your blood, your brain, all these things, your neurons. So oxidative stress is something we don't speak about. But think of you having a chronic illness, chronic pain, arthritis in the joints, everything is impacted, right? So be mindful of that as well. So gout, comorbidities, that's what it's called. It impacts different areas, as I mentioned. So for as a perfect example, is the graph here, sorry, a diagram here. So there's something called TOFI. It's developed in up to about 1/3 of the people who have gout. They may be undiagnosed, but what it is actually a clumps of urate crystals and inflammatory cells. So that forms under the skin when you have gout. Now, if you're ignoring these actual painful situation or tender feet, or you find that you have more joint pain and have not been diagnosed, seek a doctor out. Even if you don't have a family doctor, go to a walk-in clinic and they can actually refer some additional testing. And that way you can eliminate or identify if you do have these symptoms. Another thing I mentioned before with kidney stones, also for chronic kidney disease with gout, 1 in 10 people can actually develop this, even a high percentage if they have, if the gout is impacting them through kidney disease. Gout and cardiovascular disease are commonly occur together. Gout may be independently associated with an increased risk of type 2 diabetes. And of course, since gout attacks often at night, people with gout are usually they're woken from sleeping. So the pain from gout can prevent you from falling asleep, which impacts your sleep. Sleep deprivation can lead to stress. Stress can lead to mood swings, to fatigue, and other health problems. Also, the chronic pain associated with repeated gout attacks can lead to stress, anxiety, and depression. Another thing is what I want to share with you is that gout and bone loss can be connected. So when you have gout, you're more prone to osteoporosis factors and other things impacting your bone density. So gout and heart disease, as I mentioned before, can actually be linked. If you have gout, you actually have a more increased risk for cardiovascular. Or if you've been diagnosed with cardiovascular, you can actually develop symptoms of gout because they may be linked together. But also seeking for treatment, identifying what it is can actually help with more successful treatments because you're more educated as to what's happening with your body, and speak to your doctor what the symptoms are, how you're feeling, so they can rule out certain things and identify what you're going through, because most doctors, as they're being taught, they will give you an educated guess as to what they think is wrong with you until they have done further tests to sort of cement what you're actually experiencing. And it may not be a gout, it could be something else, but at least you're being proactive with your health. So common symptoms, as we mentioned before, the four on the left side through the image I shared with you. But gout is a type of arthritis. So it's characterized by inflammation, pain, redness, and stiffness in one or more joints. So that's what it's sort of characterized as. But also caused by many other things. But if your body is highly stressed and you find that you gravitate to poor diet and poor non-activity, all the things, that's where you may actually incur more flare-ups. Of course, the body's out of alignment and your body has more oxidative stress. So when we speak on different areas that can impact your overall well-being, your health, gout is something that we sort of take as as just a given. Oh, I have gout. What does that mean? So gout is quite common, especially in those who have a family history of gout. It's also more common in men, especially those over 40, even those who drink alcohol and eat diet in high in purines. But there's no cure for gout. It can cause sometimes to be difficult to diagnose, but managing your gout is what we want to stress here as to how you can reduce the amount of flare-ups in your body once you've developed gout, because of the crystals that have already formed in the certain areas of your body. So who's the higher risk? So age and sex is actually a factor, most commonly in men, and those after menopause in women. Family history of gout or high uric acid, chronic kidney disease or reduced kidney function, metabolic conditions like obesity, insulin resistance, believe it or not, high blood pressure, and high triglycerides. So you're thinking of someone who's diabetic and they're sort of, trying to fight against insulin resistance, your pancreas, your kidneys, and then here comes you're thinking of, okay, my gosh, I'm going through maybe menopause, and then you may be diagnosed with gout. So it's like five different things happening in your body, and of course, stress and anxiety and depression can happen because you're sort of not in control of what's happening with your body because you're at this state or stage. So be mindful of that as well. Being mindful and practicing self-awareness with your health is very important for your improving of your health journey. Medications, for example, diuretics for blood pressure, low dose aspirins, uh, cyclosporine, tacrolimus. These are medication that can actually trigger or cause gout. Again, it's a buildup, right, of different things. So learning how to get rid of things from your body by detoxifying and doing the right things can help to reduce some of these as well. Dietary factors, frequent alcohol use, especially beer and spirits, red and organ meats, certain seafoods like anchovies and shellfish, and sugar-sweetened beverages with fructose. One thing I want to mention to you as well, and we speak about foods like meats, seafoods, and so forth. Some of these are actually farm grown, not wild caught. And so I'll compound those things with the dietary factors with antibiotics that are fed to these, um, you know, animals or seafood, from the ocean or from the land, and you're compounding additional antibiotics into your system, causing you to be more insulin resistant, causing other factors, compounding with different poor choices of dietary. So be mindful of that as well. The three different stages of gout, asymptomatic. So this basically uric acid crystals in the face, so little to no pain. Acute intermittent pain like swelling, redness, stiffness, and then chronic tophosaceous, if I pronounce it correctly. So lumps, bones, deformation, cartilage is worn away, things like that in the foot. And so these are different stages, and you can take a screen capture of that. I won't go through it in its entirety, but I just want to have this for you to be able to capture what the stages are, and you can watch this on a further recording at your own leisure. So also gout, if you aren't mindful of this, which I would not think to put the two together. So gout also can protect the brain from Alzheimer's. This is actually a study done. I put the information below here as a link that you can actually do some additional reading on. So the relationship between gout, uric acid, and Alzheimer's is actually a study. So researchers in Massachusetts General Hospital and Boston University found that people who have gout, who had gout, there's a lower risk of Alzheimer's. So you're having these chronic pain, inflammation in the feet and different joints in your body, but yet it's actually protecting the brain, which that's not the right way to approach it, but it's actually a study that actually has helped to the findings of lowering the Alzheimer's or the risk of Alzheimer's. So out of almost 60,000 people, they observed another 250,000 people without gout, shows age average of 65 over a 5-year period. This is how the study was done. Stress and anxiety can cause gout, as I mentioned before. So stress itself does not directly cause gout, but it can indirectly contribute by raising your levels of uric acid. So a waste product that can make your symptoms worse. So if you're overly stressed, this can actually be a contributing factor because it's raising your uric acid. Gout is, as I mentioned before, the type of arthritis, which causes inflammation and pain. So the more stressed you are, the more your body's more prone to inflammation and pain, anxiety, depression. So all of these are, again, balancing as to your body being aware, doing different things to alleviate stress and anxiety from your body. So we know stress itself doesn't cause gout directly. Anxiety doesn't cause, gout, but again, I mentioned before, the elevated level of your stress. So stress and oxidative stress are two different things. So oxidative stress, I've been mentioning, is basically your free radicals in your body fighting with antioxidants. So what this means is that when you are very stressed, as your body is increasing the uric acid level, it actually it fights your body not having the ability to manage oxidative stress. So when your uric acid levels remains very high over time, this is when the level can actually develop and increase. So stress can also make you more prone to not so healthy lifestyle choices. If you grab with your overly stress, you may crave the more high levels of carbs versus low levels of the right simple carbs versus complex carbs. You may gravitate to more sugary things. So poor choices in your eating habit just to pacify and to soothe you for that moment, but then it has a lingering and long-term effect over time. And so if you're making the choice of eating unbalanced diets, not drinking enough water, skipping workouts, things like that, over time, this is what contributes to uric acid crystals forming in your joints and triggering gout symptoms. So the link between the gout, stress, and anxiety is a link I put here. Actually, I found it quite informative. You can actually grab that information that helps you with some, I guess, some additional tools that you can actually use and put into place. I put this here as a goutalliance.org as a for resources. So you can share with as many people as you like. It's not related to what I'm sharing with you in the way of who we are as a brand, but I think it's important that you're being aware and getting more additional information to educate yourself as how to manage gout. So how to stop your gout pain at night, as I mentioned before? Well, you can create a routine avoiding caffeine in the later half of the day, minimizing things like your screen time, shutting down your phone before bed if you can. Now we have habits, and I'm guilty of that as well, to put better practice into place for good sleep hygiene. Exercise more frequently or regularly, getting maybe a buddy system to help you get out of that rut, so to speak, of getting back into the mode of practicing healthy habits. Do what's good for you, what's best for you in the way of your health journey. Help to control your gout by lowering your uric acid levels, preventing the gout attack. So if you find that you've gained weight or it's hard to lose weight, and being active, but through exercise, maybe low impact versus high impact. Things like walking, maybe aqua exercise, helping to loosen your joints, stretches, blocks, different things that you actually can do to basically minimize the amount of flare-ups you have. That will help you also with your sleep pattern. But understanding when you're about to have a gout attack, if your temperature body drops, feet and hands decrease in blood flow, increases your gout risk. Changing your breathing, for example, your slow breathing leads to respiratory acidosis, promotes uric acid accumulation. Dropping cortisol's level, this reduces the level of anti-inflammatory hormones, contributing to gout flare-ups. Dehydration, lack of fluid intake at night, leads to fluid utilization, potentially increasing gout risk. Sleep apnea, for those of you who may not know that you may have sleep apnea or that you have a higher risk of it or you have been diagnosed, meaning that you decrease oxygen level from sleep, apnea can contribute to uric acid buildup. So these are things that actually you impact you. Sleep apnea, I did an actual presentation on sleep apnea, sharing, the insight that I learned, a whole presentation a few months ago. And this actually surprised me with the sleep apnea because you don't realize how they're related, right? So with the sleep apnea, contributes, especially if you have a higher risk of your body mass index, other factors like history of heart failure, diabetes, and so forth. So the medication, which can increase gout. This actually is one of the areas that I found. And so please note that it's unclear whether the risk is directly related from sleep apnea or whether underlying conditions exist to increase the risk of both disease, so age, gender, obesity, and so forth. What can we do in the way of being our best version of ourselves in what we eat and what things to avoid? I'm share with you some of the findings I found. Like for example, what I got gout-friendly diet. So, for example, for low purine diet for gout, eat more fruits, vegetables, whole grains, low fat, dairy or no dairy, can substitute with something else, legumes, nuts. Of course, everything in balance. Eat less shellfish, organ meats, alcoholic beverages, and especially soft fruit drinks because those are loaded with sugar, fructose, corn syrup, and all these things that your body cannot and should not uh, accept so easily, but we consume it anyway, especially when we are highly stressed. So what is low purine diet? Well, the benefits of this basically is looking at organic compounds so that are not harmful, such as but over time it could be problematic if consumed in excessive amount or quantity. So most of purine break down into waste substances called uric acid. This is later it actually dissolves in the blood in the kidneys. And so it actually tries to remove it from the kidneys. That's a natural way of doing it, but if the excess of the uric acid from what we're consuming, you may suffer more through gout or even develop kidney disease. So of course you need to be aware of what these low purine diet are, what the food contains, what to avoid, be mindful of that. And sometimes it's hard, especially if some foods like eggs that have antibiotics in them, that actually can trigger your gout. So be mindful of those things as well during your due diligence. So low purine diet reduces the risk of kidney disorder, kidney failures, gout disorder, and related problems. So if you are considering switching what you're doing, which can be hard because our habits are so ingrained in us, it's like replacing one or two things over time. Instead of doing like a cold turkey, so to speak, do it over time by gradually replacing things and implementing things into your system, into your plan, your daily, weekly, monthly plan of how you organize your meals. And then if you are able to switch this habit over a 21-day or 90-day routine, then you become habitually, I call it habit stacking. You know, you have a little bad habit and then you compound, you actually add something that's good. And so over time, your mind and your focus will shift on eating healthier. So by reducing the amount of purine in your diet, it can actually over time improve your health significantly by reducing the uric acid in the blood. The foods that we, as I mentioned before, I want to break down a couple of things. For example, tuna, mussels, herring, codfish, scallop, trout, and haddock. Not necessarily bad, but excessive amount, especially when they are farm grown versus wild caught. Things like some seafood, like haddock, right? Shellfish. Avoiding eating sweetbreads. Um, Meats that have, like, for example, liver, kidney, and so forth. Eating it once in a while is not as significantly damage to your system unless you're eating it quite frequently, which has your body doesn't have the time to process and to filter out all those things. The foods that can raise your uric levels, I mentioned before, it's high fats, alcohol, sweetened beverages, but I want to bring to your attention a couple things. Some fruit juices, even though they're supposed to be healthy, over time they may put different things like plant sterol or even added sugar to these fruit juices. So be mindful, read your labels and see the best thing for you and your family, creating that routine of healthier eating. Also, we talked about alcohol beverage, but one of the things actually I didn't realize, which I found out as in my studies, beer and whiskey have a high amount of urines, more so than other alcoholic content. And so this actually can have a negative impact on your body. So what you can add to your purine diet, water for sure, more of that. Low fat dairy, if you do that. If not, switch it out to something else like goat cheese or other things. Things that you can control is what you eat, what you drink, versus what you can't control. So grains and starch, bread, pasta, rice, and so forth, fruits, vegetables, vitamin C, making sure you're having a good amount. If you're not able to have it with food, supplement it with something else, lean protein. If your budget allows, of course, eating eggs, of course, can be in moderation, but again, being mindful that some of these eggs have are actually from the antibiotics that they feed the chicken with goes into the eggs. So be mindful of that as well. What you can do in the way of supplements for your joint health, glucosamine, uh, chondroin, if I pronounce that correctly, chondroitin, that's the word. So omega-3 fatty acids, these are supplements to improve your health, your bone health, turmeric and curcumin, calcium and vitamin D, they work well together. MSM, Boswellia, Sarota. Now, be mindful as well, the Boswellia has some side effects. It may cause nausea or diarrhea. So be mindful if you're going to take that. Again, speak to your pharmacist if you're taking other medications, especially for turmeric, to ensure, especially if you're taking like a beta block, that it doesn't negatively impact your medication with those. But also think about superfoods as well. Superfoods are really good to consume, especially when the soil is so depleted for the foods we eat. I love reishi, I love spirulina, I love many other things in the way of superfoods. I love it because I find it works well with me. I can feel the difference. And so about 14 years ago, I learned about this superfood called Ganoderma lucidum, also called reishi. And it's so funny, 14 years prior, before the 14 years of identifying what this is, never heard about it. Didn't know what it was because it's indigenous to the eastern side of the world. Learning about this is like me learning about things like thyme and ginseng that we know about on this side of the world, coconut oil. Now, I've learned about this, heard about different benefits, and I love what it's doing for myself, my family, and those I share it with. So as we go through all of this, I want to introduce you to this superfood because you can actually consider supplements outside of what you're eating to help you with reducing inflammation in your body and many other things. So Ganoderma has a high amount of antioxidants. Remember I mentioned that the body has oxidative stress, means it can trigger more gout flare-ups. If there's a fight between antioxidants and oxidative stress, that means your body is actually getting more inflamed, having more pain. So if your body getting the right amount of antioxidants to combat the oxidative stress, this is something I would recommend in the way of ingesting as a medicinal supplement as well as a food supplement. And what from our studies we found, over 3,000 case studies through PubMed.gov, there's no negative interaction with any medication on the planet thus far to date. And so thinking of you having regular foods like avocados, cinnamon, green tea, oranges, you need to have a high amount of food intake to get the equivalent of a single dose of antioxidants from this reishi, better known as Ganoderma lucidum. And so as I share this with you, I'm going to share with you a couple of things that it's been known to help with. So not only is this a medicinal mushroom, it actually is low in calories and fat, but very high in sources of nutrients, bioactive compounds like proteins, fibers, vitamins, minerals, amino acids. All of these things are really good against treating many ailments. One of the things we know from food, we get from our food that we eat for fuel. It has antioxidants, terpenoids, and flavonoids, and so does this reishi. But one of the things I know for sure is that what you don't know, you don't know until you know. So I've learned a lot about this. I'm sharing this with you, and I'm actually being surprised every single day because of the many things I'm seeing in the way of studies that have been done by different companies, including doctors and scientists, to see how they actually can replicate this, but they can't because it's not just one area of the mushroom, it's the whole mushroom that you're getting all of the benefits from. So not only getting vitamins, minerals, um, sterols, amino acids, and other elements that help with your body, it has a high amount of, it's really good for antibacterial, good for the brain, for the liver, your organs. It actually helps to reduce certain things, bring it back to balance, like your blood pressure and cholesterol. Many things it's good for, but we're speaking about gout. But there are other related illnesses or conditions that can actually be impacted because you have gout. So here's the screen capture of some of the things. It's a sort of a diagram. one thing I want to mention to you, a couple of things on this slide, is that it is anti-inflammatory. It actually protects the neuroprotective, which actually gout can actually impact. It's anti-diabetic, antioxidants. So all of these things your body needs and fights against helps your overall well-being. So the Ganoderm itself, as I share with you, these are PubMed studies. These are findings through pubmed.gov. I won't go through everything line by line, but again, you can go through at your own leisure. One of the things I mentioned before, it helps to reduce inflammation in the body. It helps to relax and calm the body because you're consuming something that your body needs. So it's an adaptogen that goes into your body. It actually supports it in ways it needs to be supported and to be able to balance it the best way it can. So because of the high amount of polysaccharides, which has antioxidants and flavonoids, it helps with these properties in your body to reduce pain, depression. It also helps with reducing symptoms of, like, for example, arthritis, especially rheumatoid arthritis or anti-inflammatory. As you mentioned that chart before, gout is one of those things that actually has impact on joint pain. The Candidum itself, additional source of information for the anti-inflammatory, but also it helps with nerve regeneration, helps with neurodegeneration, neuroprotection, and also your metabolic state. It improves your cognitive impairment. Also helps to alleviate neuronal damage, so brain damage, your nervous system, because you're impacted not just for gout, but impacts other areas of your body. We know that inflammation can be the root cause of most diseases, so it helps with the anti-inflammatory component, but also it helps in many other ways, including the spores of the Ganoderma. It actually alleviates or gets rid of depression-like behavior. We talked about stress, anxiety, and all these things that can be impacted because you have gout. So you're giving your body what it needs in the way of supplements to alleviate those symptoms as you're going through some similar symptoms of the gout. And so thinking of you fighting with many different things in your body, you help to alleviate these depressive behavior, mild stress. If you have a depressive disorder, mild or severe, it actually helps to improve those things. And not only is it calming your body, mind, your spirit in a sense, it's actually helping with many other things. The actual herb grows into 3 stages. So the rooting body is the mycelium that actually helps with antidepressants and many other things. The fruiting body, it helps with your immune system and many other things in the way of anti-oxidative stress and improves your depressive order. And then the spores itself, which are the most important part of the mushroom, helps with many other things, as I mentioned before. The oxidative stress, as I mentioned, there has to be a balance. If they're fighting against each other, then of course the body's at war, and then of course it'll be imbalanced. So what it does, the Ganoderma possesses is the immune potentiating capabilities, meaning that improves the autoimmune system. If your immune system is out of whack because it's trying to fight these free radicals and many other things, your oxidative stress, of course, it's going to go into your system as a way of a medicinal and food supplement to balance all of that out. So as we speak about Ganoderma, we speak about oxidative stress, we speak about anti-inflammatory. If your body's inflamed, it's not just in one area. If your body has oxidative stress at high amount, it's not just one area, it's impacting your organs and many other things. So if you're looking at not just the anti-inflammatory triggers or flare-up, you're looking at things like your nerve endings, protecting that, protecting your nervous system and your anti-inflammatory protective gear mechanism not right in the system. So you're consuming Ganoderma to help to alleviate all of that. So osteoporosis is also a factor that can happen if you have gout. It is linked, but think of it as you're taking a food supplement to offset or to alleviate the if you have been diagnosed with early stages of osteoporosis or to prevent it, you actually help to improve that. But also as you're taking other supplements, it helps to your body to absorb those nutrients because you're giving it the medicinal and food supplement, which is called Ganoderma, along with your other supplements like calcium, vitamin D, and magnesium, and so forth. The impact that your body has with oxidative stress can impact your kidneys, causing it to potentially, you can have renal failure, which is your kidneys, damage to your kidneys. Stress can trigger all of these things in the way of oxidative stress. But again, everything works hand in hand or against each other. The uh, issues with the kidney, if it stops functioning the way it's meant to function, this is what happens in the way of kidney failure. So Gadam is known to protect multiple organ dysfunction, also help with alleviating inflammatory responses. So this is actually helping to protect your organs, including the kidney. The individual who's going through, let's say, a heart cardiovascular condition, as well as gout, actually helps to reduce your oxidative stress by consuming this actual superfood, helping with many other things, not only for your metabolic disorder, inflammation, cardiovascular disease, oxidative stress, but can help with many other things as well, as stated here. The cardiovascular risk that you may have, especially if you have hypertension or you're diabetic or you've had a previous stroke, these things are related, high blood pressure, and then you compound that with gout, you have a higher risk, as I stated before with the studies I found, but consuming something like this to lower the risk and releasing, the anti-inflammatory properties from it into your body, reducing oxidative stress can help with your overall well-being. As we go through these slides, I want to share with you two things. The underlying condition, oxidative stress, inflammation, are linked to many other illnesses. So imagine you consuming something to help alleviate that, to be able to help your body into a more wellness state. The oxidative stress is a measure of thinking of a normal cell being attacked by free radicals, and then the cells convert from normal to cell with oxidative stress, breaking down even further in your body. Cordyceps is another one, which is actually helps with, works synergistically with Ganoderma or by itself. It has the ability to have a lot of health benefits, especially with the gut. And as we know that the brain and the gut barrier axis works well together, when there's impacted, then of course there's miscommunication happening with the body. But again, if your body can regulate the proteins related to oxidative stress and inflammatory pathways by consuming something like cordyceps, that means you're bringing your body back into a more homeostasis state. So they work hand in hand together or on their own. So here's a perfect example of a tomato breaking down. That means it has oxidative stress. That means it's not as initially as you pick it, because over time it gets oxidative stress. That means it's a breakdown and it's not conducive to a healthier tomato. Same thing with your cell. Normal cell breaking down with oxidative stress. So consuming these things to help to repair, alleviate, and to be able to bring your body back into a wellness state, thinking of consuming these things would be a win-win for your body. Again, everyone's body is different. The breakdown is different. DNA is different. So what it does for me or another person may be different from you. But as I was sharing this with you, you have to make that decision if it's the best direction for you to take to. As we go through the cordyceps, again, speaking of oxidative stress as well as anti-inflammatory, neuroinflammation, neuroprotection, these are all linked to inflammatory joint pain, all of these things. Osteoporosis, again, has been known to help with alleviating this and protecting your bones. The breakdown of your bones helps to decrease the erosion of your bones, the weight of it, enhancing immune functions, and also helping with, again, with inflammatory pathways and oxidative stress. If you think of another mushroom, which is called lion's mane, which we love, it helps with your cognition, depressive disorder, stress, and moodiness, which has been linked to gout and other illnesses, helps with your mental energy. It also helps with improving it has a lot of antioxidant properties, but also helps to reduce oxidative stress. So imagine you can actually take all three in synergy or by themselves, depending on what you're looking for. And it helps with many other things as proven through these backed by science studies. We actually are a brand, as I share this with you, called Organo. The reason why I've discovered Organo is because of this Ganoderma lucidum. Consuming this within our household, because of a health situation happened within our household, illness that happened. Unfortunately, we couldn't help that person because we found about this afterwards. We became advocates. We want to be a brand ambassadors for this brand. So we wanted to be able to represent this brand that has a purpose to helping people creating better lives, healthy and richer lives with this brand. We're a Canadian brand, 17 years old in the making. Beautiful mission to help the people of the world with the treasure of the world, which is Canada Malusidum. This is how we started as a flagship. I know we've evolved to many other health supplements in the way of the other two that I mentioned, but the power of Canada is exponential because people who are consuming it are coming back to us and giving us their testimony of what they experienced through their observation. And so it actually has the potential to have a lot more benefits based on your individual bodies of what you're experiencing, because we are still getting back testimonials from people who are sharing with us their experience. Now we have a national product number with Health Canada to state that it supports the immune system and can help to fight infections and diseases, which has been proven. And of course, as I shared it with you, this is what I shared price, not from our company, but these are in the information I found through credible sources to sort of share with you what the proof, so to speak, as to how good this actual herb of, I call it herb as a mushroom, Candida lucidum, cordyceps, and lion's mane. These are the brands that we have, world leading. Just to put it into context is that if you were to consume the Candida by itself, brew it into like a tincture and drink it, it's very bitter taste. You can have it once or twice, but then the palate may have an aversion to it if you're consuming it for, months or weeks or even years on end. But if you can consume something that you're not tasting the bitterness, but you can consume it in the way of beverages that you love, like coffee, teas, hot cocoa, and you still get the benefit of that, for me, it's a win-win. If you're like me, if it doesn't pass the palate test, I will not continue it, even though I know it's good for me. So it comes into these forms. If you're not a tea or beverage kind of person, it comes in capsule forms, the three stages I mentioned: mycelium, the Ganoderma malucidum, the fruiting body, and the spores. Or you can take both. I do. Comes in also infused into your toothpaste, helps with your gum and overall mouth health, and many other things as well. But think of it this way: if you were to make one small choice that really left a lasting impact, what type of value, what type of monetary value can you put on that? It's infinite. So if you're thinking of a healthier choice, consider this brand. We practice mindfulness through positivity and wellness, knowing that every cup we consume, every cup we share, every cup someone consumes and they give us feedback, we are sharing happiness in a cup. With that feel good feeling, knowing that your body is becoming into a healthier state. And so I share this with you because it's one of my favorite go-to, which is the hot cocoa. You taste the cocoa, the richness of it, not like what you have on the market, where it's heavily sugared, unhealthy things, but you consume that, but you actually is infused with the Ganoderma into there. That's good for kids like myself and kids at heart. And so we want to practice, holistic wellness by offering you this passport to our brand, giving you the ability to consume the beverages that can help you in your overall well-being, knowing that you can put other things into practice, not just taking the products in the way of consuming it, but putting other healthier practice in the way you eat, the way you sleep, the way you think, the way you move. These also are compounded with your overall well-being and wellness. This is what we focus on holistic wellness. And I just want to share with you one thing. There's different types of Ganadam on the market. Some are cheaper than others, but you get what you pay for. There are many certified organic Ganoderma or reishi that are in powder form or capsule form, or just as you see it there, but they're grown in plastic bags. And those do not get your body will not get the amount of nutrients it needs because it cannot reproduce think of it, a sick person cannot produce a healthy child. So if you have a way of getting from to the main source, which is cultivated as it's meant to with Mother Nature, you can see the difference in color. And it is away from, all of the toxicity that we have in the environment where it's grown versus plastic bags, faster reproduction time because it cannot produce spores, And so you have the ability to set at a lower price, but you're actually able to not get the right nutrients you need. Whereas we have a plant protected infusion of all of our beverages through this certified, 100% certified organic Ganoderma with over 32 certification worldwide. I just want to bring that to your attention. So these are the three in the way the capsule form. I mentioned before, mycelium spores and lucidum, Ganoderma lucidum. Consuming that, I love it. I started consuming the capsules about 10 years ago because I really didn't know the benefits until I started consuming it, even though you know what you know, but until you start consuming it for yourself, then you will know how it feels, what your body actually, how it responds. This is one of the brands we have in the way of the Royale. This is the way you get the three mushrooms in one versus the one in the other brand. And I love this, has been my go-to favorite, especially with honey. But if you're not a coffee person, there's other ways you can consume it as well. I became a coffee drinker because of this. I could not drink coffee before because it had negative effects. By consuming this, it changed the properties of the coffees and the teas so that you don't get the negative effects of caffeine. Teas, if you're looking for caffeine free, this is also one, has both the cordyceps and the reishi infused into there. So I love this as well, especially with cinnamon. But just let's bring to your attention, as of now until December 4th, I think, there's Black Friday sale. You get 20% off as a customer from a bundle package. You're saving on that. Plus, anything over $50, you get free shipping as it comes from our head office in Victoria, BC. If you're in Canada, if you're in the States, there's Nevada and Washington State. It comes directly from there from you to you anywhere between 3 to 5 business days. Of course, because of the Christmas rush, it may come sooner, but be mindful, of course, of what you like with your palate. Get back to the person who introduced it to you and to be able to enjoy, the wellness that we're offering through Organo and the power of Ganoderma. So with that, I just wanted to ask you if you have any questions. And thank you so much for your time. Do you have any questions you'd like to ask? Or I'm just going to, as I check the chat to see if there's any comments. No. Any questions that you'd like to ask? It doesn't have to be about the gout. It could be something else related to our health topics. Or if there's a actual topic you'd like to hear about for our next upcoming event, there's a survey that pops up after this, and you can actually put it there. And again, don't forget, we have a promotion right now because it's Black Friday coming up. Started yesterday and it's on December 4th. I guess we're all shy today. I'm actually going to stop the recording right now, and then before I end, I want to thank you once again as we wrap up the health talk, and I'll leave this moment, a minute or two for Q&A.